Expecto Patrona. Oh darn it, screw this, I'm getting out of here. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, the Prisoner of Azkaban was a significant turning point in the Harry Potter series. It had a new director, new Dumbledore, new costume designer, and a whole load of new characters, not to mention a complete change in the tone of the series. This was the first movie in the series where the Harry Potter franchise went from a basic book adaptation to it actually felt like a movie franchise. You know, this was the first one that strayed a little differently from the book, unlike the first two films, which were extremely faithful. And this was also the first one where J.K. Rowling had less involvement in, and also the first Harry Potter film not to be directed by Chris Columbus. Chris Columbus intended to stay with the series until the end, but the schedules he described were just exhausting, and he could not direct the third film without taking some time off, so he decided it was time for him to leave. And so Mexican director Alfonso Cuarón, who of course directed 2013's Gravity, came in, and he basically brought new life and a breath of fresh air into this franchise. I think he is undoubtedly the right choice to take this series in a darker, more mature tone, which is one thing this movie greatly improves over the previous two, but I'll get to that later. And also, this is the first Harry Potter film to not star Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Of course, he was recast as Michael Gambon. While it did take a while for me as a kid to get used to Michael Gambon being Dumbledore, I have to say, once I got used to Michael Gambon, he was awesome. He is a more than worthy successor to Richard Harris. I know people complain that he's too shouty as Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's supposed to be a calm character, but this is a new take on Dumbledore. And Michael Gambon, he wasn't too shouty, he was still calm most of the time, and Gambon really, he could kick ass in the action scenes later on, but again, that's for another review, of course. And also, this movie introduced so much new characters, and Harry learns so much more about his past. His we see his godfather Sirius Black, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher Remus Lupin, and Professor Trelawney, and Peter Pettigrew, of course, Wormtail, played by Timothy Spall. Yeah, the new cast all round great. Sirius Black, David Phillips, Emma Thompson, and Michael Gambon, of course, all perfect, all wonderful. And this is, of course, the last Harry Potter film to be scored by John Williams, which is such a shame because John Williams is freaking awesome. And he would, of course, be replaced by a few other composers later on in the series. But he had to drop out because he was working on Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith at the time, so can't blame him. But overall, The Prisoner of Azkaban, is this movie as good as everyone said it is? It's considered to be the best Harry Potter film by absolutely everyone. Do I think it's the best? Well, you'll find out. So The Prisoner of Azkaban begins with Harry getting at the Dursleys, getting a visit from his Aunt Marge, who, she's a complete bitch. She insults Harry's parents. Harry rightfully gets pissed off and makes her blow up, and although he uses underage magic, apparently the Ministry just forgives him because they don't send people to Azkaban for blowing up their arts, even though he did technically break the law. But anyway, this is not the last time this happens in this series, but we'll let that slide. And this is also and also when Harry is heading to the Leaky Cauldron to meet with the Minister, he gets a lift from the night bus, and the night bus, of course, does have a much bigger role in the books than it does in the films, and the film that's only in Prisoner of Azkaban, and that's it, which is probably a good thing. And of course, Harry finds out that Sirius Black is an escaped criminal from Azkaban, and Arthur Weasley later tells him that he's escaped to Azkaban to find and kill Harry. But of course, we all know this is just lies to keep Harry away from Sirius, to protect him from knowing the truth. And then on the Hogwarts Express, when they're on the way to Hogwarts, the train gets halted and we see a Dementor, one of the most terrifying creatures in the Harry Potter series and ever put to film. The introduction of the Dementor is brilliant. It's flawless. It's every bit as good as the Black Rider introduction from the Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, man, the first time that Dementor comes in, you are like, this is not a kids' movie anymore. This movie has taken a complete darker turn from the first two. And then we meet Remus Lupin, who thankfully sends the Dementor away, and David Phillips plays the role wonderfully. And he is basically Harry's advisor in this film. He teaches Harry Expecto Patronum, the Patronus spells to fight the Dementors, and he is, of course, a close friend of James and Harry's father, and was one of the Marauders. And yeah, he basically he's basically Harry's Jiminy Cricket throughout this movie, and then we get Hagrid as a teacher for the first time, as he's teaching his Care for Magical Creatures class, where he shows them how to ride Buckbeak the Hippogriff. I love Buckbeak. He's freaking awesome, and the scene where Harry rides him is just breathtakingly beautiful. Oh, it's pure magic. It reminds me of Jake's first flight from Avatar, and damn, I was. It's one of the best scenes in the entire Harry Potter series. What can I say? And I love it when Draco Malfoy actually gets his comeuppance when Buckbeak scratches him on the arm. I'm like, yes, Malfoy finally getting what he deserves. And of course, later on, Hermione even punches Draco, which is some real girl power for her. That's one thing this movie improves over the previous two. The characters are more badass. The characters are more mature and more emotional and more complex, which brilliantly shows how they're growing up and becoming braver. And Harry is discovering new things about his past. He learns in Hogsmeade that Sirius Black is believed to be the one who betrays his parents, and Harry, he gets furious. He's like, I'm gonna kill the bastard who betrayed my parents to Voldemort. And you're like, damn, Harry, you're not the happy little boy you were in the first film. Yeah, kudos to Daniel Radcliffe. He performed that scene brilliantly. And the and of course, after that, we get one Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson with Snape. Of course, Snape's only covering, but at least it's a lesson, which is so satisfying. And we get the classic line, turn to page 394. And, of course, Snape gives them the essay on the werewolf, which is an important plot point later on. And the Quidditch match in this movie, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's different atmosphere. It's very gloomy in comparison to the sunny settings from the previous two. And when Harry gets attacked by the Dementors and almost falls 1,000 feet with his broom, I was really scared. I was like, damn. But thankfully survived, although sadly his broom landed in the Whomping Willow and got destroyed. But hopefully this problem can be fixed later on. And this is the first time, of course, we see Hogsmeade, and it's a beautiful village. The set for Hogsmeade is absolutely gorgeous and so cozy and inviting. I wanted to go there myself. And Harry, of course, he gets to Hogsmeade because he receives the Marauder's map from Fred and George, which shows him secret passages to Honeydew, and of course he uses the Marauder's map to detect Peter Pettigrew, the man who is believed to have been murdered by Sirius Black, until he's caught out of bed by Snape and eventually Remus takes the map off him. I love the Marauder's map. It's a brilliant device. If we had a Marauder's map at school, we'd never get lost. And then Buckbeak sadly has been sentenced to death when he rightfully attacked Malfoy. What the hell? And then after they think Buckbeak's been executed, or has he? Then we get Ron being taken away by this black dog, which Harry keeps appearing. As Professor Trelawney told Harry, it's the Grim, the omen of death, and they follow Ron into the Shrieking Shack where they meet Sirius Black himself. Harry almost kills Sirius, but luckily Remus stops him and explains that it wasn't Sirius, Harry. Sirius is innocent. It was Peter Pettigrew who betrayed your parents and framed Sirius for the crime. We find out the craziest thing ever, that Peter Pettigrew, played brilliantly by Terry Spall, was actually Scathers, Ron's rat, this whole time. I jaw dropped. That was one of the best plot twists ever. Harry Potter movies are always great for having plot twists. I mean, we thought it was Snape in Philosopher's Stone, but it turned out to be Lupin. We thought it was Hagrid in Chamber of Secrets, but it turned out to be Tom Riddle. But this plot twist just is even crazier than the both of them combined. And as they're about to give Peter Pettigrew to the Dementors and prove Sirius's innocence, Remus transforms into a werewolf, which is one of the scariest scenes in the series. And when Harry saves Sirius, they both are attacked by a horde of Dementors. Again, terrifying scene. This movie has much more balls than the first two, and Harry thinks he sees his dad cast the Patronus, but it turns out that once Hermione has had a time turn all this time, which allows her to go back in time and change things, and Dumbledore gives Harry and Hermione this mission to go back in time that night and save Buckbeak from it, which they successfully do, thankfully, and Harry discovers it wasn't his dad that cast Patronus, it was him. He saw himself, and yeah, it's a great moment for Harry. It's where he just casts the Patronus and beats all these Dementors, that shows how powerful he's become. And when they thankfully save Sirius, and you really want Harry to live with Sirius after he's been living with these arsehole Dursleys this whole time. But sadly, Sirius tells Harry, "I'm sorry, mate, but my life will be very unpredictable for the next few years. I'm afraid you're going to have to live with your aunt and uncle for the time being." And it's a beautiful goodbye from Sirius. And Daniel Radcliffe said whenever he's with Gary Oldman, his acting is always perfect, and I can see why. And Sirius explains to Harry, the ones we love never really leave us. You can always find them in here, which is the message of the series, of course, overall. Really hits your heart here. And Sirius flies away on Buckbeak. Harry and Hermione have thankfully saved the day, and Remus retires and says a rather emotional goodbye to Harry, and Harry luckily gets a broom, the firebolt. I know people complain that the firebolt was cut short in the movie, but I think it's a nice fun ending to see Harry just enjoy the firebolt, a nice present from his godfather. I was so happy after all he'd suffered in this movie, so I don't see that much of an issue at all. So overall, The Prisoner of Azkaban at the time was hands down the best of the three so far, where the series took a much needed turn into darker, more complex, more sophisticated territory for the better. Alfonso Cuarón did a flawless job with directing this movie, and he even asked the three actors to write them an essay about their time here. Dan wrote a 10-page essay, Emma wrote a 60-page essay, and Rupert Grint didn't bother to write it at all. And Rupert said, well, that's not the sort of thing Ron would do, which proves how confident they were in their roles and how much they knew their characters. They greatly improved their performances here over the first two, and also the effects in this movie are beautiful. This is easily the most beautiful and gorgeous, most stylish looking of the Harry Potter films. I mean, beautiful scenes like Harry casting the Patronus, Buckbeak's flight. I mean, Hogwarts looks more beautiful than ever. It even has some new additions like the covered bridge and the hill to Hagrid's hut. The list goes on. Yeah, The Prisoner of Azkaban, it's just also the most emotional of the three films so far. The first two films were fun with a little drama, but this movie really focuses on the drama and gives the characters some badass, emotionally complex moments, which is what I love. And we also learn about Harry's past more than we ever did in the first two. Again, it did brilliantly expanding the universe. So overall, The Prisoner of Azkaban is a great entry in the Harry Potter series. It really changed the series for the better. I bet fans were like, wow, this franchise is getting brilliant now. I cannot wait to see what they have in store for Goblets of Fire. And this movie is strangely the lowest grossing film in the Harry Potter series. I mean, it only made 795 million at the box office. I give Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban 5 stars out of 5. Is it the best Harry Potter movie? Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's certainly one of my personal favourites. Anyway, what do you guys think of Prisoner of Azkaban? Whatever you think, comment down below, let me know. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.